And here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to Creating Geeks, a parenting podcast of great responsibility. I'm Chris.
I'm Sarah.
And we have a very special guest for the first time on Creating Geeks. And this is actually our first time with two of us on this end trying to do something over the phone with somebody else. So this is really cool. I'm just going to let our guest introduce himself and what he does. Take it away, buddy.
Sure. My name is Stephen Duetzmann. I am the host of Engage, a family gaming podcast, and I'm also the founder of EngagedFamilyGaming.com. It's a website on the internet where parents come together to make sure other parents have the information they need to get their family game on. So we talk about the same crap, is what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And you were at PAX the same day as I was, and I posted the little handout that I was giving out at PAX, and you saw the name of the podcast and got in touch with me, and are like, "Oh my God, we need to do this. Let's do it." And I think,
he's local.
Yeah, I was gonna. I'm pretty. Are you local, or did you come out for PAX from lands far away?
I mean, I don't know where you are. I'm in Connecticut.
Okay, that's local-ish. We're in Lynn, Massachusetts, so right on the coast, just north of Boston.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys were super local. To PAX. No, yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm in Connecticut. So. PAX is such an awesome show for me because it's the closest big show, if that makes sense. I go to a lot of the other stuff around Connecticut, but there's something cool about just getting to go into Boston and pretend like I'm a city boy and go on the T and see big buildings, which is something that I don't normally do. It's you get the whole gaming world collapses on Boston for 3 days, or now 4 days, which is probably too many, but that's another topic. And I saw you guys were there, and I know we tried to link up briefly, but like you guys were doing crazy stuff. I was running around like a madman. That you can't see anybody, even though you're surrounded by 70,000 people. Like, what do you do?
It's funny too. I was waiting in line at the Dwarven Forge booth to play some Dungeons and Dragons with a buddy. And a kid I went to college with, I haven't seen in like 6 years, just taps me on the shoulder.
I had almost literally the same experience. One of my college roommates was there, and I came out of a panel that I was doing and, went down to the board game area, and I was just kind of milling about near where all the Magic players were. And he just came out of nowhere, and I was like, holy crap.
That's awesome.
But go ahead. You figure we run into all these random people, but the people that we try to link up with, it just wasn't going to happen. That's just PAX is too crazy.
Now, did you go to the whole show, or were you only there a couple days?
I was there for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I had to make it home. I left Sunday morning at just ridiculous o'clock because I needed to be home. My son was in his school play that day.
Awesome.
He was in Oompa Loompa. So I wanted to check. Obviously, I didn't want to miss that. Originally, I was going to skip PAX entirely because I wanted to go to all of his shows. But I was invited to be on a panel that was accepted, and I got some neat appointments. And my oldest was like, "Dad, listen, every time you skip PAX, which I have only done a few times, it's like we don't get as many cool games. So I would rather you go to PAX and come home with games.
Yes.
Than
I like how they think.
Then come to two of my shows." And so I couldn't really argue with that logic.
No, I like how your kids think.
This was actually our first time, and I think I'm addicted now. First time. It's my first time.
First?
First.
You had never been to PAX before?
No, isn't that funny?
I almost don't. I believe you because you're telling me and have no reason to lie. But other than that, I don't believe you.
Well, ever since PAX became a big thing, we started a family, and just setting aside any amount of time for that became really hard.
Yeah,
and it can't. It comes around the time of year where bills are stacking up and everything, and so it's
March
not something.
Does suck.
Yeah,
March absolutely sucks.
And it's not something we ever took a chance on. And this guy he goes by Mr. Fantastic on Twitter. It's Reed D. He knew my wife from high school, I guess.
Yeah.
And he had got in touch with me and was like, hey, I got accepted to be part of TakeThis.org's the AFK room there. He donated his time for them, so they gave him passes to PAX. And so he goes, I paid for passes already, and you seem like a guy that would really enjoy it. So do you want them? And so I ended up going for Thursday and Friday, and then I bought a ticket for Sarah on Friday, and it was an absolute blast. I didn't know that. Again, we could definitely be on again. With you some time to talk about video games too, because that's just another big thing. But I had thought it was mostly video game heavy, and it's kind of an even split between tabletop and D&D and Magic and video games. It was we were so happy because in the world that we're in, with a couple kids in the house, like you said, you can still have your friends over, and the kids sometimes start getting interested in the games, but at least they'll hang out and we can play board games, and it's great.
Yeah, no. What's funny about PAX is, as much as you say that it was kind of even, it actually is. It used to be more even. Like there used to be more board games.
Cool.
I think a lot of the bigger companies are kind of bagging out on PAX, like the PAX East, etc., because they're just moving into PAX Unplugged, which is in Philadelphia at the end of the year. Which, by the way, if the two of you have an opportunity to go to, I highly recommend, if you're into that scene, because it is, it's still young, so it's a little cozier.
And it's a great room for a con too.
Yeah.
Damn.
The Philadelphia Convention Center is really great. It's a great time because it's towards the end of the year. Lots of stuff is on sale. You can get a lot of your Christmas shopping done while walking around amongst your people. And a lot of the stuff that has been shown off throughout the course of the year kind of finds itself to be on display there. So you can get some really good demo time in. And I have found, as a content creator, that board game companies are more interested in micro influencers like us, like smaller content creators than some of the bigger video game publishers. And so, they really, want to engage and they want to talk to you. So it actually is kind of a more, I go in there, and it's almost like an energy surge, because it's, sometimes being a smaller content creator can be, frustrating, when I get my emails from Nintendo and they still call me Stephanie after like 3 years. And like, I just let it go at this point because I'm happy that I get something, but that doesn't happen with board game publishers who know me by name. So I mean, for you guys, if obviously it's a little farther away than PAX East, being that it's, not right in your neighborhood. But it is a great show.
Oh, and I hadn't heard of it till you mentioned it, so that's even better. It's cool that you mentioned, the way the content creators are treated, because I found, you go to a video game booth, unless you're like an indie game. I mentioned, I run a show, and a couple of people had actually heard of it because they hear about it through my brother, and my brother's a big deal in that scene, so that was really cool. But the board game one's more, oh, you run a show? Come over here. Like, let me show you every single game I have. Let's play them. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is awesome. Yeah. I'm actually, I hooked up with a couple of people, and I'm going to have them on as well. So that's really cool.
Awesome.
But so tell me what outside of, the obvious, in that you're a parent and you're a geek and you have kids, of course, parent, there you go. What got you into what you're doing, and how long you've been doing it?
So, I've been running EFG for, it'll be 7 years in June.
Oh, congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah. I started like the day before an E3, so that's how I track it. So I've known that I've wanted to write about games or create content around games, for a long time. And so, I started writing for The Examiner, which, is just, not a great place, but it is, it's super self-directed and independent. And I had a quote unquote a beat. I was the gaming lifestyle editor for Hartford. And really that just meant I could write about whatever I wanted. And I did that for 6-7 months, and it helped me learn about content management systems and how to write, which I really, I knew how to do, but you know how it goes. You got to build the skill.
Right.
And I got tired.
You can't do it without doing it.
Exactly. And I eventually got really tired of being like dude number 95,000, like writing about Madden and Call of Duty. Number one, because I don't care about those games as much. And there's, you know how it is. There's lots of people in that space.
And I guess the way I look at it is the thing that really got me about PAX, that really excited me. And I feel like it's really hard to stumble upon something new, even, with all the indie stuff you can get on like the Wii shop or, the Nintendo shop and things like that. I still like the physical interaction of it. I run another show about Blockbuster, and that's what everybody talks about, is we miss the physical interaction of it, the going there. And so if you're going to write about the 20th, Madden title and Call of Duty title, you're not going to get a scoop that no one else has. But
correct.
If you go in and find that board game or that indie video game that's just waiting for someone to give it airtime, and then you really dig into it, and like the person gets that, I had never, I'm not this I guess journalism comes with this, but I akin what I'm doing here more to, like radio. My father said he always wanted to be a radio DJ, and he was a journalist, so he worked for a newspaper. So there's something about finding that scoop and seeing someone get excited, like, oh, you know what, I haven't told anybody this yet. When you're the first person they're telling that story to, that's so much more exciting than someone on a beat just going, yeah, this is Madden 2019. We changed the color of the shirts in the grass.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though there's a place for that, people love those games. But it's just
absolutely
a scoop there.
Absolutely. So eventually I was going to quit, because that's just kind of what happens sometimes. And it was my wife's idea. And I say this a lot. I think every good idea is somebody's sister, mom, wife, or girlfriend's fault. So my wife just pulled me aside and was like, listen, you talk to people about games and suggest games for their kids all the time. Why don't you just make a website and do that? And I laughed about it and whatever. And then I kind of did the Tony Stark fixation thing. And that was in, I think, a March. And by June, I was up and running, and I had, reached out to some of my friends to help me create content. And I took the week off from my day job and just covered E3 remotely, and produced a whole bunch of content that I was really proud of. And I came out of that week saying, you know what, I think I could do this. Maybe not full time, because who can, but I could definitely make this a really cool hobby that gives me access to, some really cool stuff. And I've ended up, I went to E3 for a couple of years. I speak at PAX. I'm a big piece of like the greater Connecticut board game community,
which is
and
so
growing.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, and I get to do stuff like this where I meet basically random people on the internet, and I get to come on and talk to them, and basically make radio content, and it's been a lot of fun. The podcasting piece, it has really blown up for me over the last couple of years, where it's really like I'm less of a writer and more of a podcaster. I think I would rather have a microphone in my face than a pen in my hand 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I find writing hard, even though I'm told I can be good at it. My wife's a writer. She's a fantastic writer, actually.
I just don't have the discipline to do it.
Yeah, so us sitting down after the kids go to bed and just saying, hey, we're just going to do this for an hour. And cut to 2 years later, and we've got, hundreds of hours of content on the internet. It's awesome. So, and man, you said you haven't been doing the podcast for long. You're up to like, what, 179 episodes?
Oh, well, yeah. We've been doing the podcast. I've been doing the podcast for a while, but what I mean is more, for the longest time, I always introduced myself as I'm a writer. I'm as a journalist, whatever. And now when people ask me what I do, I say that I'm the founder of the website and a podcast host. And now more and more a video host, just because that's more kind of where my passion is and what I enjoy. But I've been doing the podcast for, it's a weekly show, so 179, weeks. So give or take, taking the time off. Like, obviously we take the last 2 weeks of the year off every year. So
it's a good idea.
Yeah, you should do it.
I love how you always have the little sound clips of your kids, and then they're in it sometimes. It's great.
Yeah, the dad joke thing at the beginning of our show was it started kind of as it started as a joke. And the little behind the scenes secret that I share with anybody that even brings it up is most of those are all recorded at once.
Nice.
We'll like get a joke book, and we'll be, a lot of the kids are not my kids. Some of them are my friends' kids or my co-host kids. Anytime there's a bunch of us around and we're just kind of hanging out after dinner, we'll get like one of those, Roald Dahl books, or everybody will get out their phones, and we'll just take turns telling each other jokes with my phone in the middle of the table recording. And, we do that for like an hour. And then my audio guy will chop it up. And, he has a million files. And so, I think we're due for another joke session because I think the tank is starting to run low. But we do them all at once just to avoid having to worry about, thinking about one. And it makes it easier. And it's also a really fun evening of just, being really stupid.
Yeah, I a lot of times with these shows, you have somebody around you haven't seen in a long time, and they people are like, oh, you do this show, and I'll have a buddy over and I'm like, oh, I wrote this thing for this book, about the scavenger hunts I did at the University of Chicago. And it's like, dude, why don't you come over? We'll get some dinner, have a couple beers and record a podcast.
Yeah.
And it ends up being like a great way to catch up because it forces you to sit down and create something instead of just, worrying about what you're going to do all night.
Yeah.
So with that's dude, it's a pleasure to get to know you. I figured, your show is about, finding board games, talking about board games. Our show is about sharing things from our past with our kids. So figured we'd kind of do something similar to your show on ours and then record something with you later. So Sarah and I figured we could do just a round robin and talk about a new game that we've played.
Sure.
To kind of introduce each other, and maybe we'll stump you, maybe we won't. I doubt we'll stump you because you play everything. But mine, and I think Sarah's too. We spent a long time at the Wild East Games booth at PAX.
Okay.
Do you know them?
I don't. Maybe I do, and I'm not. So you're probably going to stump me.
No,
I'm
that's
terrible with company names.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
They had a very bombastic. They were a small company, it seems, but their booth was very like in your face. It had like an old West style backdrop, and everybody was in Wild West costumes. And then one of the girls there was dressed up like my brain's gonna shut off. The main character from Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Brain shutting off with the Keyblade, and everything. Yeah. It's like, all right, this is really cool. And they were handing out.
Oh, you had the pirate. You were playing the Pirates game.
There we go. Yeah, so we got Pirates of the Caribbean, which is hilarious. But since we haven't played that at home yet, I wasn't going to go in depth on that one. But I think that's a hilarious pun. The Pirates of the Caribbean. We played a little there. It's like a deck building game where you're trying to steal pies from each other. It's a lot of fun. I'd say it's kind of akin to like a Sushi Go kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. It seemed like it had a little more story to it, Sushi Go.
Yeah, but Sushi Go was story. It's one of
those games that listening to the directions is more confusing than actually
playing it. Yeah. But we just sat down and had friends over. We picked up one called Slapdown, I think is the name of it. And it's the simplest concept. And what I love about it is, you could get your kids into it because it could be a matching game, like early on for like your kids, just different shapes and colors. But the game is just matching, but you get, a team of 2 to 8 people, and you make this grid of 50 cards on the table. And there's 4 colors and 4 shapes. I think it's 4, right? Or is it 6? It's 6 because it's a 6-sided die.
Yeah.
And you can have wilds and stuff, and you basically roll a shape and a color, and then the first person to slap their hands down on the color shape pair gets it. But then when you start getting them in your hand in front of you, kind of like rummy, you can, if there's nothing else that matches the dice on the table, you can reach over and slap the other people's and steal it, or they can defend it. And it creates like a Twister level of fun, crazy chaos. They call it the Unfriend Maker is the name on the front of it. And it's a simple art style. But man, we played it for a couple hours. hours. We had a couple of friends over and just we
Like an hour.
we thought it was going to be, a silly like one-off thing, and we just couldn't get enough of it. And every new person that came in, you got to play this, you got to try it out. So Slap Down by Wild East Games. I think it's something that you could easily get your kids into pretty young, but you playing it up to 35, 40 years old and still loving it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm looking at the sell sheet on their website now. It does look pretty cool. I like the I
Yeah.
like the colors. I think the cards look pretty cool. How the cards pretty sturdy? Because it
Yeah.
feels like these games are going to take some abuse.
Yeah, they're sturdy. They're like probably the level of sturdy of like a Cards Against Humanity card.
Okay.
Or like Apple. They're not as cheap as Apples to Apples cards, because I think those for being a kid's game, like I think the minute any sort of wetness gets on those, they just get destroyed. These ones are definitely built to last, it would seem. And I like the company. I liked the people that were selling it. They were really cool to talk to, and we bought a bunch of their stuff, so they throw in a bunch of extras, to advertise, right? And it was really cool. Sarah, what's your
I'm gonna go with Botched Operation.
Botched Operation?
We played that. We had friends over, and was it Parker Brothers?
Yeah, I think Operation's a Parker Brothers game, right?
Yes. I wanna say yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
look while you guys go.
Yeah, keep going. If you haven't heard of this one, this is hysterical.
So whatever the company is, Parker Brothers, they re-released a bunch of their games. Operation, Sorry, Life. I think there's a Twister one, and like just one other one. But they're like the boxes are all black, and they're like twisted versions. So like we have Botched Operation, and then Sorry Not Sorry, which we haven't played yet, which is like a screw you version of Sorry.
Yeah, it's Sorry, but like you're intended to break the rules, kind of like they have that Monopoly break the rules cheaters edition. Yeah,
but this is so Botched Operation. I forget how you play regular Operation because it's been so long, but this one has the Operation board. It's the same little pieces.
Yeah, Cavity Sam, same guy and everything.
Card you draw, and it's a screwy way to operate. So one of them is like operate while holding the operating table in your hand and hopping up and down on one foot. Operate holding the board while pacing. Operate while your arms are someone standing in front of you and your arms are through them. Operate while being tickled. There's a bunch, and it's just hysterical. Like it's the simplest, stupidest thing, but it is a riot.
It's a great icebreaker game. Like when you have like a bunch of people, and like charades always ends up being a good icebreaker game too. You want to just get people to like come, and we saw the box, and it's like, okay, adult versions of kids games. I don't know if that's the smartest idea, but then you play it. And
it's not even adult version.
But they call it that. But I guess it's that way because they intend for it to be like a drinking game. But like the idea of Botched Operation is you're playing Operation, but laughing gas went off, and so all the doctors are loopy, is what it says in the instructions. So what a couple of my favorites are, you have to place the board on someone else, and try to play like while they're lying on their back or while they're doing push-ups and stuff like that. It's
Downward Dog.
It's a riot.
The other one I want to get is the Life one. I think it's called Life Poor Decisions or something.
Yes. Yep. What about you, good sir? What do you got?
So, while I was at PAX East, I actually didn't get a chance to play too many board games, but because I had so many appointments on the video game side of the house. However, the game that I was able to sneak a quiet demo of a game that is actually coming to Kickstarter soon from a company called Phase Shift Games. And that is it's a game called Dungeon Drop.
Oh wow.
And so here is the pitch. The pitch is the game comes in a cube-shaped box, which by itself is kind of interesting. You pick a race and a class that are very simple. They give you, each of them gives you an ability that you can use one of. You can use one of those two abilities on your turn. And essentially, at the beginning of the game, you pick up a handful of the cubes from inside the box, and you literally drop them on the table. You like sprinkle them like Salt Bay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you sprinkle them on the table. And the gray, and that is literally the dungeon that you are dropping into. And so on your turn, you essentially you look for the gray cubes, and those represent pillars. What you're looking to do is build triangles, fine triangles, and those are the rooms. And you can pick up all of the cubes that are kind of inside that triangle. And there will be gold cubes that represent gold pieces and treasure chests. But there are goblins. And if you pick up a goblin, you take a hit, you take damage. And so it's a kind of a push your luck game where you are trying to continue through the dungeon, picking up these components, and kind of messing with your opponents, because in some cases you can flick the different cubes and move the rooms around, using some of the different powers. It's actually really interesting. And the fact that on each of your turns, you actually get to get more pieces out of the box and kind of drop them on the table from kind of elbow height. And so it's always changing. It's really neat, and it's super fast. And I really appreciated that. The art on the cards is also really neat. I have a copy of it coming to me. It was shipped out today, so I expect that I'll have my prototype copy within the next couple of days. And I'll probably be unboxing it, if not on Wednesday, on Sunday for the Sunday Night Unboxing on our Facebook page.
Oh, so cool. I'll have to check in for that. I like the idea of randomly generated gameplay.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
Crazy. What's cool is that it's not super random, because you can kind of control it, but really things just fly all over the place. But when he first showed me the demo, we were at lunch. So we went to, one of the restaurants near the convention center and dropped the pieces down, and we were playing on our table while we were waiting for our sandwiches. But we were able to play a complete game, including him teaching me, from the time that we ordered my sandwich to the time that it arrived. So it's very fast, very cool, very cute. This is going to be, this is designed to be a mass market thing. They want to see this in Target if they can get it. And I think it has every possibility of doing that.
I think it would sell great too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Target's game section is the most, it kind of crept up out of nowhere. I go and walk through there now, and I go, really? They have that? They really have turned that into a more, I don't even know what the word is. It's respectful. They have a really great mix of kids stuff and just more the indie weird things, that I think is really cool.
It's true. Yeah.
Especially for a big box store like it is,
Yeah, and they're putting money into exclusives too. They want lots of exclusives. I was at Toy Fair, and I talked in February and talked to a lot. Oh man, well, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to. You got to just apply.
Toy Fair?
That'd be awesome.
Toy Fair.
Get the Creating Geeks and Toy Fair.
Yeah, you just buy tickets, and you have to
Oh yeah,
you have to apply for press passes. We'll talk about that. We can talk shop about that. But I'm sure that if you can't, I'm sure you should be able to, just from your podcast. You'd have to show them some traffic numbers.
To go as regular schmoes.
No, it's for insiders.
You can, but an industry ticket is very expensive. The only way really to get in there would be through a media outlet for us regular folk. But we can talk shop about that. I'm sure that if you meet the requirements, which you very likely do, because they're not super difficult, then you should be able to get. It's at the Javits Center in New York.
Oh, that's not far at all. I don't know why I thought it was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. It's Gen Con that's the middle of nowhere. But Toy Fair is Toy Fair is great. It's a little weird getting used to being in a place where there's no nerds. Whereas PAX is crowded and we are among our people.
Right.
You go to Toy Fair and you are not among your people. It's a lot of it's an interesting experience. But I was there and I talked to a lot of companies that are, that make a lot of games, that are publishers, and a lot of them, there are games that they would never publish on their own, but because Target is interested in it, they would put it there. So it's the Target looking for exclusives is actually getting games made that might not necessarily make the cut elsewhere.
Wow.
So that's good for us. More games, more choices. But it's really interesting, if you only have the bandwidth to publish 6 games a year, but Target's willing to come in and make a difference. Maybe you do 7. And so a game that might have been kind of lost and put to the side, all of a sudden now Target's got it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah, dude, you got your finger on the pulse. I like it.
I try. I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
But the go figure. It pays to just be nice to people.
Right. I found that people aren't used to it, especially on the internet.
Correct. When they see, when I go to appointments and they're late and they're running late and they're behind and they're like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry." And I'm like, "Listen, dude, I'll just go over here and like post stuff on Instagram. Just get to me when you can." They are very receptive. And I've met some great folks just hanging around waiting for appointments. I mean, for me, that's networking time. If I'm just waiting for something, if I have absolute business being there, and so do you, we're going to be friends because we're all in this together.
Right. That's awesome. Do we want to do one more game recommendation?
Sure. Why the hell not?
I'll let Sarah start this time.
Me?
Yeah.
Come back to me. Oh, well, another one we got from the, what was it?
Wild East.
Wild East Games was lightning dice, which I really like. I thought it was fun. Everyone gets 6 dice, and I think there's a couple ways you can play. Like, I created a way to play, which I don't see why you couldn't. But then the board is just
it's tiers.
It's tiers 1 to 12?
1 to 20 something.
21. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. And you flip a card, and you have to roll whatever the dice are on it, or do whatever it says. Like, it'll say,
they trip you up.
Roll all odds, or one of them was like, just stack your dice.
Yeah, just be the first person in the group to stack your dice on top of each other without it falling. I was like, oh crap!
The first person that rolls the dice gets 2 points, and everyone is assigned a single number. So you could also kind of like Yahtzee it and get all of your number to get extra points, or all of an opponent's number to knock them down.
So you're just constantly moving up and down the tiers, trying to keep other people from winning, but there's 3 things to do in every hand, so you got to be
options. You're not trying to do all.
You got to be the first person to get the thing in the middle, but you can knock someone down a bunch if you keep rolling Yahtzees. And it's just crazy how fast it is.
The other thing you can do, because you could all try to do the same card, but we were having an issue where not all of us could see the one card flip. So I'm like, well, we could all just take and do our own, and then whoever does their own first could get the points too. So
that actually
it seems like their games, even though they don't say it, have a lot of flexibility to it too.
The other thing I noticed too, back to Slapdown and Lightning Dice, is the way they did their instructions. They do them very very well released. Like, they start by saying, here's the basic idea of the game. We're going to hold off these other things you can do until you get used to it. So they'll go like, okay, get used to playing. And now here's this other cool thing that's part of the rules. So they're kind of set up to be kind of a novice at it when you start.
Yeah. I like their games. They're very simple and fun.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that, just looking through their sheets, I agree. It looks like they found a niche. That's super cool for, to find companies that like have figured out their thing. And so clearly they have figured out just, make simple stuff with, and maybe throw a pun in and go for it.
Right. Throw a pun in and get people to sit down and play it. I'm going to pull out one from a little while back. And I'm sure you've played it, but I just want to talk about it because it makes me happy because I'm a huge Lego fan. I always like, it's not something to bring in later in the night when people, are kind of tired of thinking, but Creationary. Have you played Creationary?
I have not.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Creationary, they just put a bunch of random Lego pieces of different colors in a box, and you have cards, and there's an easy, medium, and hard card, and you get various points, and you flip it over, and when you flip it over, you have to build it, and it's kind of like Pictionary. You have to build it, and the other people have to guess. So because you have a limited amount of Lego pieces, you have to get creative. And so, it'll be as simple as a car or a letter T all the way up to build the entrance to Legoland. you know, and it's a cool one to bring out at parties, especially when a bunch of my engineer friends come over, because hooray, engineers, Legos. But it's fun because it's such a simple concept and it's really hard. And to do like the harder things, it's timed. And it's just a lot of fun. And if you've never tried it, I recommend checking it out. I don't even know if you can buy it anymore. It might have been like 10 year ago.
I don't think they have, because they had a bunch of like board games. I don't think they have any of them.
Yeah.
They had,
Yeah,
like,
no,
they
they don't do that anymore.
Bunch of them.
It's a bummer.
There's like a labyrinth maze one.
Yeah. I was really fond of it. I thought it was a really well put together idea.
Yeah, right now, Creationary. If you are super into it, it's $88 on Amazon with Prime shipping.
Wow.
Holy crap.
That was like a $25 game.
Yeah, it was like 30 maybe, 35.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that's just the nature of the that is just kind of the nature of board games. Once they're out of print, things get bananas. With that said, it's
for something fun to do, go on eBay and search retro games. I found some doozies from like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Dude, have you ever played Assassin?
I can't say that I have. I'm looking up Creationary on on the eBay while we talk. It's much cheaper on eBay.
Yeah.
There was a one I came across that was a Titanic board game about trying to save yourself from the sinking ship, I think it was. There was
fun story about the Titanic board game. It is very likely. I worked at the Discovery Channel store that was in a local mall.
I missed the Discovery Channel store.
Yeah, during the post Titanic craze, and they had Titanic everything. And the one thing that really there were two things that bothered me. Like some of it, and the one of them was a Titanic bath toy that came with its own inflatable iceberg.
I remember that.
And then the second one was the Titanic board game, because I picked it up and I looked at the back and I was like, for real, you really are. It's really the Titanic turned into a board game. Now, fast forward a bunch of years and we've played some pretty dark, there's some pretty dark board games out there. Yes. I just felt like a Titanic, the board game, back in like the late 90s was just not right.
Yeah, the one I found, I think, was even older than that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it must. I have pictures of it.
It's just not right.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, we play World War II board games and we don't even think about it.
Right, so, or like Axis and Allies, and Risk. And you're like, what are you really doing when you're taking over
1976, the sinking of the Titanic game. The game you play is the ship goes down, then face the peril of the open seas.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, even worse than that was a 1980 game called Public Assistance. Why bother working for a living?
Yeah, the welfare board game.
Oh, man, that's a little...
Apparently it was a banned game.
Of course it was. So was Assassin. Our friends Tim and Corinne found a copy of Assassin on eBay. And Assassin, it's basically like a Monopoly style board, but you're going around the country collecting goods and services so you can pay assassins to take out the other players. And leaving that the just the point of the game is dark, because it was made in the 70s, the artwork and way that other nations are treated is really, really, really bad. And it's a fun, niche thing to look at is, people that are past that and above it and go, wow, what a silly time. But man, if anyone ever found that game in your closet and didn't know you, they think you had some problems.
Yeah. I mean,
so go ahead. Sorry.
Sounds fine to me. I mean,
it's a fun game.
I'm used to being judged.
Blast. The game's a blast. That's the fun part of it. Cause it never goes the way you think. And it's usually the cheap assassin that ends up winning. Which is kind of funny, but all right. So let's hear one more from you, and then we'll take us out and move over onto your show. So we're not up till 4 a.m.
Sure. So,
Even though I could talk to you for forever. You're a
You
blast,
can talk
dude.
to anyone forever.
I could talk to anyone forever.
well, I
It's my
mean, what we're gonna have to do is, so I think I'm just gonna have to, because don't you have like 6 shows? I'll just come on all of them.
nice.
I have a pitch for an episode of your Blockbuster show, Talkbuster, because I told you I am a former assistant
Oh
manager
yeah, dude. We
of
have to do that.
and this is my pitch. What would it be like if if the Marvel Cinematic Universe happened while we were at Blockbuster? Like, how awful would our experience have been dealing with keeping track of all 22 of those movies and people coming in to get them, and like how many guaranteed to be there coupons would we
Oh
have to
my
hand
god.
write because there's never enough copies of Infinity War? Like, that's what I want. That's my pitch. I want to talk
Put,
about the
put a
hellscape.
pin. Put a pin in that. That's going to be
I'm
amazing.
accepting his pitch on your behalf.
Yes, my wife accepted as my producer. My wife has accepted your pitch on
All
my
right.
behalf.
Fair enough.
I'm
Fair
your
enough.
CC Babcock.
Just because I was thinking about that today, and I was like, no, we got to talk about it. The hellscape.
I forgot you had said that. Oh man, no, I love
I like his
I
idea.
love the Talkbuster, and that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, we got to do it. I'm trying. My sister has all my former shirts, so and we believe that I have one that is still trapped somewhere in a bin in her house. So I may even be able to post on the Twitter me in a Blockbuster shirt to celebrate the occasion.
Yes,
Um,
please.
Absolutely would do. So as far as games, I'm totally gonna break the rules. I want to talk about video game.
No problem, dude. That's not a rule.
So I want to. So I do a running thing, starting this year, where I have my game of the year so far.
Oh, cool. All right, let's
Um,
do it.
So right now, my game of the year so far is Steam World Quest for the Nintendo Switch.
Oh my god, I have a Switch and I haven't heard of this. Lay it on me.
Dude, oh my god. So have you played any of the Steam World games?
No.
All right, let me paint you a picture. Well, first off, I mean, I guess it's all right. Do you like turn-based role-playing games?
Yes.
All right, so then you need to buy this now. It's $25, so wait until you got $25. Feed your kids. But that's my standard statement. I don't want to be. I don't promote irresponsibility. However, here's what it is. SteamWorld is. It's called Steam. The full name is SteamWorld Quest: The Hand of Gilgamesh. SteamWorld is a series of games from Image and Form. All of the games in the series are good, and many of them are often on sale, so you can pick them up pretty cheap. They're all different genres too. But basically, you play robots, like steam-powered robots, in like this really cool cartoon style. The first 2 were Metroidvanias.
Yep.
Then they made like a side-scrolling, 2-dimensional like XCOM, where you're squad-based, going into enemy ships, and it's kind of like Firefly with like a steampunk robots.
That sounds right up my alley.
It's meant to be super dumb and super funny. One of the characters in the SteamWorld Heist was literally just like an Arnold robot with like a big, twirly mustache, like, and he was just constantly lifting weights. But he was really good with bazookas, because of course he was. Just to give you an idea, like how stupid the thing is. And so they just, because they try a new genre every time, they had never done a turn-based RPG. And so that's what this is. It's a turn-based RPG. There are 5 characters in the game. You build a party with 3 of them, and the combat is done using cards. So for each character in your party, you build an 8-card deck. And when you put the 3 characters together, those 3 8-card decks combine, and you have one 24-card deck that you draw through.
Right.
And you'll have regular attacks that will help you build a steam meter. And then you have other attacks that actually drain it. So you have this neat push and pull of using relatively weak attacks, but building up your steam. And then you don't want to have too much because obviously it caps out. And so you want to constantly be letting that, draining that to heal or use powerful, spells, etc. It's really the artwork is really cool. The characters are interesting. The story is, kind of a whatever, but it's funny at least. but the card combat is just so satisfying because you'll be playing and you're drawing cards on your turn, and you want to create combos so that every character has like a special bonus action that they take if you use 3 of their cards in a row. And it's just really satisfying and fun to just kind of figure out the engine and pull off like 2 or 3 really killer turns. It is just so good. If you hate card combat, then it's probably not for you. But if you like turn-based role-playing games and are at least neutral to card-based combat, then this game is an absolute must-own. And right now, it is my game of the year so far. And as I project out to the end of the year, I don't see too many games that I am aware of that can compete with it. Now, obviously, we know things are going to get announced and all that, but of the games that I know are coming, I'm not sure anything's going to beat it. So this could very well be my game of the year for 2019, and I found it in March or April. It just came out last week.
That's how much is it?
I think it's 24. I mean, full disclosure, they gave me a copy, but it's $24.99.
That's fine.
Well, I have to say that for the FCC.
Yes,
but got to make the regulators happy. But I believe it's $24.99, worth every penny. I would pay twice that.
No, I think I'm going to pick that up when we're done because that sounds right up my alley.
It's really good.
Video game?
Switch.
Yeah, for Switch.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, let's move on to yours, dude. Thank you so much for coming on our show. I think this won't be the last time for sure.
Sure. Anytime.
This is a blast. So we'll do our little outro. Again, this is Steve from Engaged Family Gaming.
Our first guest.
Our first guest ever. Thank you very much.
You haven't had your brother on?
Not on this show.
You figure I mean, you know a guy. I'm just
right. Well, see, the idea, this was the first spin-off show I did because I didn't know the podcast was going to be mine. He asked me, "Hey, you and I have a good rapport together, and my fans want me to do a podcast. Let's do one." And that became the Chipman Brothers Tangent. Like I named it. And I realized actually Sarah named it.
Thank you.
And as
I had a feeling that was coming. As I said, every good idea, every good idea is someone's wife's fault. And as we were moving along, he broke it to me that it was his idea to give me a creative outlet because he thought I'd be good at this, and I got addicted and couldn't stop. So I did Creating Geeks. Well, also because Bob and I couldn't necessarily always record every week. I mean, he's doing four or five shows a week of his own thing. So, getting the tangent more than once a month was kind of hard. So I said, okay, I'll do my own thing and I can bank them, and have fun. Yeah. And Sarah and I can sit down and crank out 2 Creating Geeks in a night, Mm-hmm.
But it was cool to do it this way. We've never done an episode of this show freeform like this. It's usually a pre-set, pre-thought out idea. So thank you. And we'll be having you on again soon or doing something. And we got to do that Talkbuster episode. So
I like that Talkbuster episode.
All right, Sarah. So as we always say,
there's no shame in being a geek, no matter how old you are.